This one ecosystem is blowing up right now. In the last week, we've seen 2x's, 5x's, even a 10x, which is completely opposing to the rest of the cryptocurrency market, which is getting beaten up so badly. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you exactly what this ecosystem is and why it's been performing so well. Hey guys, my name's Alessandro. In this video and all the subsequent videos, I'm going to be doing deep dives into ecosystem projects. Remember, nothing that I say is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. It's all for education and information purposes only, and it's not intended for a UK audience. Let's get into the show. Hey guys, what's up? I'm Alessandro. I hope you're doing well. I hope you survived this horrendous week. Everything's been getting absolutely brutalized. Did you say thank you once? If we look at Bitcoin, lower high, bang, 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 lower highs. Although, this week somehow we didn't break a new lower low, which is pretty good news, really. We did see the NASDAQ make new lows, the SPX make new lows. There was all this sort of like GME buying pressure potentially. It might come out next week. It could have been a sort of like artificial price, is maybe why the price has been holding up so well. Who knows? But fundamentally, what we're talking about today is one ecosystem that has been bucking this trend. Somehow it's been, there's been, 50% runners, 100% runners, 500% runners. And I'm not talking about like the pump fund casino. This is not a casino. This is a genuine project that is building real, actual, useful AI-based infrastructure and compute and really intelligent uses of AI to make very, very cool stuff, right? And of course, that would be Bittensor. And specifically, not just Bittensor, but Bittensor subnets. And so if we're looking at these subnets, in the last week, we've seen, 360%, 250, 200%, 190%. Even really, really massive subnets like Gradients has run 120%, and even the absolute biggest subnet, which is Chutes, has done 35%. Right? There's really big returns that are happening in Bittensor right now. In the subnets, and it's because one thing is going on. People are unstaking their 𝗏, and they are looking for returns. These returns, by unstaking their 𝗏, they're pushing 𝗏 into subnets. And whilst this graph here, 𝗏 in subnets, is trending upwards, it means that these subnets are going to go up in value, basically, because 𝗏 is valued at 1.8 billion. And these subnets, the absolute biggest one, the market cap on the biggest one, is sitting at 181,000 𝗏. So what's that, like $40 million, okay? So the biggest subnet is valued at 40 mil, and 𝗏's valuation is 1.8 billion, which means that as 𝗏 is unstaked from the root network, I'll show you what that is in just a second, it needs to go and find a home in a subnet. That's why this subnet is, these subnets, the 𝗏 in subnets is trending upwards, and the 𝗏 on the root network is trending downwards. So as we are seeing, we've seen this little spike here. Maybe that's the end, but fundamentally, I think that as long as this chart is going upwards, there's a very good chance, well, as long as this chart's going upwards, then subnets as a whole will be increasing in value. And some subnets, the sort of like best picked ones, will be getting those kind of gains we just saw over here, right? 240 and 80 and 300%. Ridiculous returns, to be honest. So, to start with, what is the root network? Because that's kind of what this is all based upon. So the root network is what 𝗏 initially was. This is the original 𝗏, right? The very original Bittensor network was just the root network. Then they wanted to make it a bit more intelligent and use all the computational power to solve problems, specific problems. And so they created these subnets. Subnets, anyone can start a subnet. It just costs money. Right now, the cost of starting a subnet is 320 tau. So what's that, like 700 grand or so? 600 grand. So it's not free, right? Like, on Pump Fun, it costs a couple of dollars to launch a meme. This stuff is expensive. So the chances of someone rugging is like much, much lower. You can't just rug on these on these networks because it costs you money. That subnet cost is not a cost that is redistributed afterwards. It's a cost that remains in the network. Yes, you earn APY on it, you earn emissions on it, but it's if you want to stop the subnet, then the money doesn't come back to you anymore. It used to, actually. But so you've got these runners, right? And the reason that they're running is because, key reason, tau and subnets is increasing. And so this used to be the only network. Then they introduced subnets, and then recently they've introduced this concept called dynamic tau, right? Because all of these subnets were earning tau emissions, and they were dumping their tau emissions, which was causing tau to just like struggle so much in terms of its price action. And so now they've released DTOA, and what DTOA says is every block, 1 tau is mined. Now that tau is distributed based upon how much value each subnet has. So Chutes is the most valuable subnet, 181,000 tau it's worth. So that means, because they're the most valuable, they get the largest share of emissions per block. Remember, 1 tau is mined per block, so that means they get 0.176 tau per block. They also get alpha tokens into their pool. So the way tau works now is every block's mined, 1 tau's mined, a bunch of alpha tokens are mined. The alpha tokens go directly to each subnet. Alpha tokens, you can read that as it's just alts that exist on Bittensor. They're all called alpha tokens, but they've all got their own Greek letter, but fundamentally. Each block, alpha tokens and tau tokens are pushed out into all these subnets. And if more alpha tokens, so they've all got more alpha tokens than tau tokens in their subnet pool. But if the amount of alpha tokens dominates the amount of tau tokens in the pool, then those subnets are not very valuable. So if we go to, let's say, some of these unvaluable ones, this one here, 71, what we're going to find is that there are not much tau in the pool, 0.03% of tau in the pool, relative to 99.97% of alpha in the pool. So this particular subnet is down only, right? Because no one is willing to trade their tau for it. So it's just been down only. You don't want to be getting into that by any means. However, if you look at Chutes, they've got a bunch of tau in their pool, right? So that means that lots of people have been swapping their tau for this token, pushing more tau into the pool, increasing the relative share of tau to alpha in the pool, making the subnet more and more valuable. And the reason people are pushing so much money into Chutes is because Chutes is like the darling of Bittensor right now. It is the subnet that has been actually producing stuff. So this is their website. They're run by Rayyon Labs, actually. Let me just show you Rayyon Labs quickly. Rayyon Labs they have 3 different subnets. They've got Chutes, which is like the absolute best on the Bittensor network at the moment. But they've also got Gradients, which is subnet 56, and they've got 19. So 19 does inference, and Gradients trains AI models. And the reason they built subnet 64, Chutes, is because this is the subnet that they essentially wanted prior to launching these two. So lots of subnets on Bittensor actually use Chutes for their own APIs on large language models. So they're actually killing it right now. But they're not only getting use inside Bittensor, they're also getting use just generally, right? They've currently got some 3,000 GPUs on the network. Almost 900 of those are H200s. H200s are the most expensive GPUs you can get. They're handling a shitload of requests per day. This is how much they've increased in their like usage over the last, or since their inception, really since December. You can just see this like a massive upward trend. And this is not just people from Bittensor using Chutes. Chutes is getting used by through OpenRouter, and Chutes and OpenRouter. Chutes are dominating like certain language models in OpenRouter. So things like DeepSeek, Chutes are providing 40% of the API that DeepSeek are offering, or the usage of DeepSeek is like almost 40% provided via Chutes in terms of API usage. So, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? You've got this like serverless compute network, serverless compute subnet on Bittensor that is being used in the real world. So that's why Chutes has been performing so well. They've also just released an agent sort of like integration, and so on sqd.io you can now basically launch agents through Chutes as well. And so these agents can do, you know, a bunch of stuff. They can message, they can like do research for you and all sorts of stuff like that, right? You can build a squad of these agents. And these aren't agents that have tokens assigned to them. These are just agents that are leveraging all of the infrastructure that Rayon Labs has, right? So Subnet 19, 56, and 64. So they're probably going to be, I mean, once you can start using these, it'll be very interesting, but it does make you just like appreciate potentially that there's no real need for these AI projects to exist anywhere other than Bittensor, to be honest, because there'll be better versions of what they could be if they're leveraging an entire network of computational power. So Chutes has been like absolutely flying, which has been cool. And one of the reasons as well is because basically the way DTOA is functions is it pushes out a lot of emissions early, and so you're getting these ridiculous APYs as well on these tokens. And this is the biggest subnet right now, and it's paying 175% APY. And I remember if you think about Chutes as well, it was at 0.16 back in the middle of March, and now it's trading 75% up from there. So with a high of 90% just a couple of days, just like yesterday. Like these things are, it's even lower than that, to be honest. Look, it was down at 0.13. So what's that? That's even more. I can't measure from there because it's in the volume bars. Annoying. But yeah, it's more. So yeah, these things are like actually happening right now, right? And you can ignore these like initial spikes because this is when the liquidity is really low. But the key thing that is like important to understand is that as tau in subnets is increasing in value, is increasing in terms of its percentage, it means that tau's got to go and find a home somewhere, and the places that it's finding a home right now are these different subnets. And because these subnets are so small in their market cap, even Chutes is only like a $40 million market cap. It only takes, 0.1% of tau to go into here in terms of how much is staked to the root network to see massive price appreciation. So where are the other opportunities? Because Chutes has done a lot. My biggest bag personally is Chutes, and it has been since DTOA launched. I don't plan on changing that. I actually still hold majority tau though, so like I'm like 80-90% in tau, and then 10% in alpha tokens, because I still think that fundamentally, like, it's pretty simple really. If tau wins, then if Bittensor wins, then a particular subnet on Bittensor has won. And if Bittensor doesn't win, then there's no subnet that's won, right? So just by holding tau, you gain exposure to every single subnet that has the potential to win, their field. And if any one of those is the winner, then tau is the winner of that. But obviously any subnet could lose for any given reason. So this site here is quite cool because it's showing you mind share of different tokens and sort of top gainers to this sword scan. And you can see like Targan's massive mind share recently because a bunch of whales have been buying up Targan. Bitmine's just on a little has been getting a lot of mind share, and I quite like Bitmind right now because they've just had a whale who's like dumped a bunch of their tokens. So you've had a whale exit in the last couple of weeks, so they are actually down a little bit relative to everything else. But what Bitmind are doing, it's not loading, are producing. They test for deepfakes, right? So they're looking across websites, trying to find deepfakes. So all you got to do is you got to click here, upload your deepfake. Might sound like a pretty useless thing, but fundamentally really, really important because it's going to help stop things like insurance fraud. If you remember this sort of viral image that came around recently, Bitmind's got a 98.4% chance that this is basically AI generated. So you've got real world use case. Plus, Bitmind have been building on Bittensor for a very long time. They're Subnet 34, so they've been around the block. They've been able to be profitable mining Bittensor for mining TOW for. It does say that their age actually. If I go here, something that says their age. I can't remember. Somewhere else says their age. Anyway, Subnet 34. They've almost definitely been around for about a year now. But here's a chart that they've been getting. This is like almost Chutes was 2 weeks ago. So they were trading at 0.3, and they've come down aggressively since then. And they're just looking like they're finding some sort of bottom around here. And because of what they're actually doing is useful, people are going to be more willing to push their TOW towards this subnet. But right now they're trading at like a $6 million market cap. The FDV is much, much higher. But remember, if you go and the APYs on these are high, right? So every Subnet 34, wasn't it? Bitmind. So, I mean, you're earning 1% per day basically in terms of Bitmind right now, if you stake to a good validator. So every day earning 1%. Obviously, that means that you can stomach pretty aggressive swings because the emission rate right now is very, very high. And that does sound like it's not feasible to continue, right? And I definitely does. It is not feasible to continue. I think all of these plays are like are swing trades for me anyway, with the main goal of earning more TOW. But I just want to the reason I'm finding it exciting at the moment is because where else in the ecosystem right now can you go and see 130% in a day, 60% in a day? Like, you just can't go anywhere to see this. And as I said, these things are not unheard of, right? This subnet's been around for a whole year. It's not like it's a brand new token launch that no one's got a clue about. And you can go and you can use SwordScan. Remember that SwordScan site? You can go and use SwordScan to find ones that are gaining mindshare, and then you can even go on SwordScan's Twitter as well, because SwordScan's Twitter tells you sort of gives you little updates. Oh, what's it called? I've forgotten the name of it. SwordScan's Twitter gives you little updates as you're sort of going through. But this is just how sort of detail works, right? Over time, the amount of emissions from the root network go down. The amount of emissions from the each subnet are aggressively going upwards, which is forcing people to leave, to take their TOW away from the root network and go and push it towards. So many tabs open. 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏, and go and push it towards these subnets, right? And this is what as I said, this is what I'm basing it on. As soon as this chart begins to trend downwards, then I'm going to be selling all my subnet tokens back into TOW and just staking at the root network again. But whilst this is trending upwards, as I said, this is the key really. We've had this little spike here, so this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Maybe there's going to be a large amount of TOW in the root network. But what's also important to consider here is people first stake to the root network, right? So this actually might be fresh liquidity. This could be fresh TOW because you're not seeing a subsequent drop in subnets. So this could just be people taking their free TOW and staking it. that probably is what it is. But anyway, that is Bittensor subnets in a nutshell. Some cool ones, as I mentioned, and yeah, this ecosystem I think has so much potential just because of the potential of AI generally. And as I said, fundamentally, you're looking at this situation where if Bittensor wins, if any subnet wins, then Bittensor as a whole wins, right? They only need one killer application, really. And once they get one killer application or one killer use case, then they're probably going to get 2 and 3, and soon after that, they'll have a lot more. Doesn't mean to say that they will have those things, but I think not having exposure to the biggest AI use case in crypto, considering how dominant AI is as a narrative and will be as a narrative over the next few years, or not even taking the time to go away and understand this ecosystem, I think is for the most part, I think it would be a good thing for people. Is definitely where I'm spending my time in. I think has the most chance of being successful long term. Anyway, I hope you got some value out of that. Please hit the likes, please subscribe, and yeah, otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.